Hey folks, Mike McAllister here from OllyWP, and today I want to talk about something in the WordPress space called Gutenberg. If you're not sure what that is, no worries, I'll tell you all about it in this video. So if you've been anywhere remotely close to the WordPress space in the past few years, you've most certainly heard the term Gutenberg. But depending on who you ask, Gutenberg means different things to different people, and unfortunately, it's causing some terminology confusion around our community. And that's basically what today's video is about. So I thought I'd take just a few minutes today to talk about what Gutenberg is, what it isn't, and why it's probably time to move away from the term altogether. So what is Gutenberg? Well, before I tell you what it is now, I probably should tell you what it used to be. So over the past few years, you've probably noticed WordPress has gone through some major changes. We've got an all new visual content editor in WordPress. We've got a visual website builder, a way to control your styles globally, pre-designed patterns, and a bunch of other awesome stuff. So as all of this new technology was initially being developed in a beta plugin, it needed a working title to act as the umbrella for all of the design and development and testing to bring this stuff to life. So WordPress leadership chose the name Gutenberg after Johannes Gutenberg, who invented the printing press and ultimately changed the world in the process. No big deal. So under the working title Gutenberg, or the Gutenberg editor, these features began to take shape and make their way from the Gutenberg plugin into WordPress core. In 2018, we got the new content editor added to WordPress, and then just a few years later, we got the site editor, and since then, more and more features are making their way from the Gutenberg plugin into WordPress proper. The thing is, even though these features are part of WordPress core now, lots of folks still call the editor the Gutenberg editor, and generally add the word Gutenberg to anything relating to these features. You'll hear things like Gutenberg themes, Gutenberg tutorials, Gutenberg videos, Gutenberg articles, Gutenberg hashtag, etc. And don't get me wrong, I totally get why they're still using it. For several years, we needed to use the word Gutenberg to differentiate the old and the new editors, right? The Gutenberg terminology was really helpful context for the big transition WordPress was going through. But that being said, I think it's time to drop the Gutenberg vocabulary from our day-to-day usage, unless we're actually talking about the Gutenberg project or the Gutenberg plugin. So here's why this actually matters. These features are WordPress features now. They are included in every single new WordPress install, and users are exposed to them en masse every day. And although some of these features may still be developed and improved in the Gutenberg plugin, these are WordPress features now. They're not Gutenberg features. They are part of WordPress. They live in WordPress. So generally speaking, we don't need to invoke any kind of Gutenberg terminology when talking about the WordPress editor anymore. In fact, it seems to only be adding unnecessary confusion to the many thousands of people who join our community every single day. They only know these features as WordPress features. I mean, to kind of illustrate the confusion, people still to this day ask me if they need to install the Gutenberg plugin to use the new features like the editor. And the answer is, of course not, obviously, but you can totally see why they would think that. You know, they've heard about the Gutenberg editor, they see the Gutenberg plugin, they think I need one to use the other. And so I get where the confusion comes from, and stuff that seems obvious to us is quite confusing to a lot of these new folks. Now, keen WordPress enthusiasts will notice that Gutenberg terminology is still used everywhere. It's used on hugely influential sites like WordPress.org. And so it begs the question, why should we move on if they're still using it, right? It's a fair question, but from my experience, it seems like this is more a case of resources needed to change something like that than it is some kind of opinionated take on whether or not to keep using it. So sometimes you need to get the ball rolling. You need to have the conversation first, and maybe this will be the catalyst we need to start moving away from it in these prominent places as well. I know what you're probably thinking. This guy's crazy. What's his problem? Why does he care? I get it. It sounds like maybe I'm being pedantic, and maybe to some degree I am. But as a creator, an educator, and voice in the WordPress space, I know that terminology matters to users. It's hugely important. And so it's part of my job, it's part of all of our job really, to communicate effectively and educate accurately so these users can adopt these new features and be successful with them. And it can be hard to do that with the kind of Gutenberg word salad and inconsistent vocabulary going on out there. So with that in mind, I've put together a few handy tips about when to use Gutenberg terminology and maybe when to avoid it. So I would avoid using Gutenberg terminology when I'm talking about the WordPress editor. Instead, you can simply call it the WordPress editor, the block editor, or the site editor, depending on the context. These are all kind of commonly accepted terms at this point. I would avoid it when talking about WordPress block themes. You don't need to call them Gutenberg themes anymore, or full site editing themes even. You can just call them block themes. That's accepted at this point. I would avoid using it when educating users on new features. Using Gutenberg loosely in tutorials might have been helpful at one point, but at this point it's kind of disorienting and it confuses people with the plugin and the features in WordPress, and so I would just avoid it. I would also avoid it when you're creating tutorials and writing blog post titles that might get picked up in SEO. It just makes it harder to move on from this term. I would stick to commonly accepted terminology for specific features instead of putting them under a big Gutenberg umbrella. So when is it okay to use Gutenberg still? Because it is, obviously. It's still an active thing in our community. It's still okay to use the Gutenberg terminology when you're talking about the actual Gutenberg plugin or the Gutenberg project. It's okay to talk about it when you're talking about the development on the Gutenberg GitHub repo. And of course, it's okay to talk about it in the context of WordPress history and the part that Gutenberg played in its evolution. All these things are totally fine. Okay, so just wrapping up here, by evolving from the vague Gutenberg terminology and sticking to a tighter standard of WordPress vocabulary, we can all start speaking the same language again when it comes to the new WordPress, right? This is going to be hugely helpful to especially all the new people coming into WordPress. And it'll also go a long way in helping us move past this Gutenberg transition, which has been incredible, very helpful, but it is time to move on. And it's time to exist in this new WordPress era where these features don't need special qualifiers. They're just WordPress. So this is WordPress now, and we should be proud to call it that. All right, folks, that's all I have for today. Thanks for hanging out for a little bit. Be sure to check out ollywp.com. We have more videos like this. There's written tutorials. And of course, check out the Ollie block theme, beautiful new block theme with over 50 patterns, beautiful styles, and there's some incredible pro features coming soon. So be sure to check that out. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for hanging out. Bye.